Get that pump in, bro.
Trying to make sure the tries and buys look good for this.
You think I got by looking like Peter Pan over here? That's my favorite line from that movie. Hey everyone, what's going on? Portable Trevor here, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Nathaniel Mowery. Nathan, what's up, man?
Hey, that's my name. How's it going, Trevor? We're sitting actually in the same house, but just doing this in different rooms, doing fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for traveling near and far to come to this interview.
20 feet away, probably.
So yeah, man, what have you been into today?
Just spirit on my desk for one. It's been a pretty fun day. I've been doing a lot of editing. I'm trying to wrap up this documentary I'm doing for DDP, and that's it's at a pretty good spot. Like I'm nearly done. So it's been a 4-year journey. Like started this in 2016, and now it's 2020. And I'm just kind of working out the last final little bits. And so now we got the last little bit kind of, I'm wrapping that up now. So I added in one last interview, and it's looking really good. So I'm really proud of it. I'm really stoked for everyone to kind of see that whole story, because it's been nuts, you
know. When did you shoot Relentless? Or am I allowed to say what it's called?
Well, I guess you are, because you already said
it's a live stream. I already said it.
Yeah, well, I guess so. But no, Dallas talked about it a lot publicly, so it's something that a lot of people already kind of know about. I started working on the documentary August of 2016, and so it's been a good minute. And then the history of DDP Yoga, there's just a lot to cover with Dallas being like this pro wrestler, and then everything is kind of done with DDP Yoga. And it's a crazy story, and it's this guy, like you if you know who Diamond Dallas Page is, he was like an icon of the 90s, a huge professional wrestler, and he basically wanted to change his career path. And after he was finished with wrestling, he started this thing called DDP Yoga, which was like a health and fitness company, but also a production company, also just a lot of different other things. But I've been involved with DDP Yoga since 2013, and but it's been going on for many, many years. And it's a really cool thing to be a part of and to do a story about. It's just amazing. So there's just a lot of.
Let's get into that more in a little bit, Nathan. I kind of want to start from the beginning, if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hang on just one more second.
Where are you going, Trevor?
I'm going to get headphones because I can hear you through the speakers.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes. So
glad I met you today.
Should have been way more prepared, I know.
I probably should still, maybe I'll just let it go the whole interview.
Yeah. So Nathan, I've known you for about 2 years now. Would you say? I think actually probably 3 now.
I met you at Jaren's house.
At Jaren's house. We'll get into that in a little bit, but so
we're getting into exciting.
In the 3 years that I've known you, you've honestly been like the most inspirational figure in my life, and you live life to the fullest. Like I think I really want to thank you for all that you've done for me. But I kind of want to start from the beginning. Like, how does somebody like you even get started in a business like this? It seems just insane. Like, I've had a lot of people ask me, and I'm not even like where you are, but people ask me like, how do you get started? Like, where do you do this? How do you do that? So let's just start from the beginning. Like, what got you into filmmaking?
Man, filmmaking has been something that I've loved my entire life. Even, with Robert, who lives at this house with me all the time, and he's like my best friend. So when we were little kids, like when we were 5 years old, we get our mom's VHS cameras and we just filmed goofy skits with our brothers and stuff. And and then I just never stopped. It was just a way of playing, and then it was just a fun way of exercising creativity as I got older. And it's just something that's always been a part of me. I've never had a moment in my life where I didn't have a camera in my hand, really. And I've always just been making and stuff and shooting stuff. So, I'd probably say when I first picked up a camera is when I was 5, and I've pretty much consistently have filmed pretty much since then. You know, it's been an ongoing thing all life.
And do you remember like what's your first memory with the camera?
Man, it's hard. It's hard to say, but I'd say like the furthest back that I can think of, I remember being at like Robert's house, and we took his mom's VHS camera and everything, and we would just film all these like skits and stuff. And I remember there was one skit where we were like 6 years old, and we were just like doing stuff in front of the camera, and we're like, oh no, if we're here, then who's running the camera? And then we were like, a minute, just like started shaking, and then I just remember Robert's, oh my poor camera. That's kind of like their area. Like, I'm sure I filmed before then, but yeah, so I'm at that.
And quick question, Nathan, do you have a Premiere open or anything just to make the connection run a little smoother?
I do. Let me
Yeah.
get rid of it.
Yeah, closing that and like any other like big programs will definitely help.
Let me close Oodles and Oodles the tabs. There you go. See you, Spotify. We'll see you later. And maybe that was the only thing I had open. So Spotify.
This is what everyone clicked on this link for.
Yeah, to watch Nathan close apps on. But yeah,
cool. That'll help. I mean, you weren't too bad. It was just like it'll help a little bit. It'll help a little more.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So yeah. So Heather wants to know: do you still have the footage, or do you ever plan on releasing that on like Kind Punk early years?
That'd be really fun. I've wanted to do like a documentary about the everything up until this point, because I think there is a really cool story to be told about Kind Punk, the Kind Punk House store. Even like you know, like again with Robert and everything, and just making all of these videos. I'm sure that we'll make something, because we're just sitting on like a bunch of footage. Like I have most of everything recorded, like or still have most of everything. So I'm sure at some point we'll do like a documentary or something with all the footage, which I'd be super stoked on. Something that I actually have talked to Robert about pretty recently.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
And let's see, Zach wants to know, what's the worst thing you've made that people can still find on the internet?
That is a great question. I think if you just find my YouTube page and you just start going back further and further, there's a lot of really good stuff.
Oh, so it's really that easy to find?
It's probably pretty easy to find. I don't really delete many things off the internet. So if you want to find me looking like an idiot, then yeah, just literally scroll into your before 2014, and then you'll hit the jackpot. So I don't know if there's exactly one example of that I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah, you just type in my name on YouTube, and then you can find a bunch of dumb things.
Nice. Well, to continue the timeline, so you during the early years you used Robert's mom's camera. Do you remember your very first camera that like you owned?
Yeah, we had like a little VHS camera. I remember we used a lot, but I think that was more of like a family camera. Man, there's a squirrel just acting crazy out my window. But and then I got like this little I forgot exactly the model of it. It was like a little digital camera and everything. And so I started using that, and my memory card was so small I could only have like 20 seconds of footage on it at a time. And I remember like just going, because I lived next to a sawmill. I grew up, and that would be like our playground. Me and my brothers would go there, and we'd just goof off at the sawmill. And me primarily, I would just set my camera up, and I would set up, because there would be all this wood and stuff at the sawmill. Set it up, and I'd just jump off of trucks, and different stuff at the sawmill, and just recreate wrestling or stunts and stuff to just entertain myself. So
what was the dumbest thing you guys did?
I don't know. There's a lot of really dumb things. I used a lot of fluorescent light tubes when I was a teenager. So I remember one time right before I went to camp, I jumped off I set myself on fire, and I jumped off of this little shed, and I went through a table that was covered in glass, and so I ended up cutting my butt really nice. And I remember I was bleeding out my butt, so that was really fun. And
jeez,
I've tied my legs to a back of a four-wheeler, and I got knocked out with a four-wheeler. I've tased myself in the balls before. Like, I've done a lot of really dumb. So yeah, a lot
Lord.
things I can't even. Yeah, I was superhuman before superhuman was superhuman.
Is superhuman your hero?
I'm Superhuman Zero. No, I'm just kidding. I actually got to meet Superhuman at the beginning of the year. January 1st, I met him backstage at AEW, and that was a real hoot. He actually
Oh,
did
you
his,
actually met him.
yeah. Oh, dude, I freaked out. Like I was
Wow.
back at AEW, and I was looking at Dylan and Robert, and they were looking at me because they knew that I was about to have a big reaction. And then I see Superhuman, and I'm like, that's
Oh my
super.
gosh.
He actually did a thing where he jumped off the road case and went through a table, and it was hilarious. So hello, Weld, and it was a wonderful memory.
That's amazing. Uh, Zach wants to know. Okay, so quick story. Our roommate James was doing a film, and I was the main character, and he wanted me to jump off of our house roof, like a little. I don't even know what you call it. It wasn't the top of the house roof, but I jumped off onto a bunch of pile of mattresses and boxes, and Nathan filmed it. It was great. Zach wants to know, was it a rite of passage for Trevor to jump off the roof when he first moved to Georgia?
I think so. I think that I think me being like the stupid things that I've done, and when people think of my videos and things, a lot of times they associate it with those kind of activities. So for Trevor to move into my house and then proceed to leave off of my house, like that was very much a rite of passage, and it was a way of almost like showing that, hey, Trevor definitely belongs here. So
Yeah, that was like the first house stunt.
yeah, it also happened like when my brother Nick visited for the first time. So it's funny. He's like in the driveway. He's like in his work clothes, and then there's Trevor like on the roof, and a bunch of guys just with their phones, just like getting ready to film. It was really good. Speaking of which, this could be my 1 second video. Yeah,
Whoa!
yeah. But yeah, it was just a great first impression for my brother to walk up on my house with someone leaping off the deal. So it was great.
That's something cool to talk about, I think. So you do this thing, and I started this because of you. This thing called 1 second every day. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing 1 second every day, every single day since January 1st of 2014. So I
And
haven't,
you've not missed a single day.
nope, haven't missed a single day.
That's
have like a
awesome.
but yeah, I haven't missed a single day, which is cool, and that's like one of my favorite things that I get to do. It's like at first, like it's kind of boring. Like you can film like your friends, like or your roommates or whatever, eating cereal, and you're like, this is kind of boring. This is lame. But you go 6 years from now, something so minor becomes huge. It's a really cool thing, and so having being able to look at every single day of the last 6 years of my life, it's awesome. Like I really want to sit, like it's like a 30-minute video. I can literally watch through more half a decade of everything that I've experienced on a day-to-day basis. And it's a cool way yourself and learning about your history, and a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so you watch this thing and you get to feel every emotion you felt in the past 6 years. And so oftentimes it's overwhelming, but I think in the best way.
That's awesome. So to go back to the Nathan Mowery timeline, so you got your first camera, and so let's kind of jump ahead a little bit to whenever you discovered and what was the Family Force 5 show?
Oh, the Really Real Show.
The Really Real show. So let's talk about you discovering that and the man himself, Isaac Dietz.
Man himself, Isaac Dietz. Okay, so here's the thing. I was watching when I was a teenager. Actually, just in general, I'm a really huge fan of music and alternative music and stuff. And when I was a kid, I was really into a band called Family Force 5, as a lot of people my age were. And like I just thought they
love Love Addict.
Who didn't love Love Addict? It's just a banger.
Love Addict, Love Addict. Anyway, go ahead.
It's I love Family Force 5. They were so fun and had just a different kind of vibe, and it was kind of cheeky, and it was just like over the top, and I just loved everything about it. So with that came along this mockumentary series called The Really Real Show, which was created by Isaac Dietz. And Isaac Dietz later on played a massive part in my life. And yeah, who doesn't know the wobble?
Everybody. Every youth group lock-in, gotta know the wobble.
Got it. So it's yeah, so kind of there. So I just kind of discovered the Real Show, And after that, it's kind of how I discovered Isaac. And one day I was on Facebook, and I saw on the People You May Know, there was Isaac Dietz. And I'm like, hey, that's the guy that does Really Real Show. I love that. I'm going to just, reach out and just say what's up, whatever. And then I sent him a DM, and I was just like, hey, man, like I make videos. This is the kind of stuff I make. Like, if you have any like thoughts or notes or whatever, let me know. And he always was just really honest with his feedback. He'd be like, hey, this is not good. This is why this is not good. This was really good, and this is why this is good. And he was just very encouraging, and he gave me really good feedback. And we just started, developing a really good friendship. And he's always just kind of been an older brother for me in life.
Isaac's amazing. So you're messaging this guy on Facebook, and so back in Cleveland, Tennessee, where you're from, you graduate high school, you start I think you told me you started working for your dad and for this factory. And so tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, not working for my dad, but I ended up working at the same place my dad works.
Oh, you're the same place. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I worked at Cleveland Utilities, like in good old Cleveland, Tennessee, for a good minute, reading electric meters, and so that was a hoot. I got bit by dogs, and I would walk around in people's backyards in the wee hours of the morning, watching their electric usages. And the thing is, like, nobody's ever seen an electric meter reader in their backyard before, because they've used the exact same guys for the past 700 years or whatever. And then until they decided to hire the fresh new 19-year-old Nathan, and they didn't even give me a jacket on the first time. So I was wearing my Hot Topic hoodie in people's backyards at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And people were just like, what is it? And so I got yelled at a lot. So that was really fun. People didn't know what I was doing or whatever. So
who's this punk in my backyard?
Who's this guy? We should kill him. Yeah. So that was fun.
What's a My Chemical Romance?
Yeah. What's a My Chemical Romance? So that was
fun. So you're working that job, and so I remember you told me you kind of had this epiphany whenever you were like wrapping up Twix bars or something. Yeah. And so tell me about that.
There's this place called, I actually don't want to say the name of the place, but there's
probably not a good idea.
Yeah. I don't want to I don't ever want to talk bad about people or things or places or whatever, but there was a place that I work, a factory, and it was like a chocolate factory, and it's not as exciting as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, if you would imagine. And so I was like sitting in one location, and I was putting Nutty Buddies into boxes, and I had to do this. I had like a 10-hour shift, so I was putting Nutty Buddies in boxes. And I remember at one point I was just like, all right, it's got to get close to 10 hours. I've been doing this forever. And then I turned around, I look at the clock, and it's been 2 hours, and I'm just like, oh man, this is going to take forever. So I remember I talked to somebody in the break room. He's like, yeah, I've been here for like 30 years. And I'm just like, 30 years you've been doing this? And that's not me hating on people that, work in factories or whatever. I think that's awesome. I think that's, they're great jobs, and people should definitely do those jobs. But for me, that just wasn't what I was, what I wanted to do. So I really had to do something else. And so I had this moment where I remember leaving Flowers Bakery, sitting in my car, and I hated it so bad. And I said the name of the place, but I left the factory, and I was just so bummed out. I was just like, I hate this. I don't want to work in a factory. And I almost cried. I was just so defeated. And I turned my car on, and the lyric on the radio, it was Rock 105, which is like the local rock station in Cleveland. The song She by Green Day came on. And there's a lyric that says all of her doubts are someone else's point of view. And that was the first thing I played when I turned my car on. And it made me think oh, okay, so all of the doubts are someone else's point of view. So maybe all the doubts that I have in my life are coming from listening to other people and other people's plans and visions that they have for my life rather than mine or God's. And for me, I was just like, okay, well, I do believe that I was created to be a creative. And so I need to go be creative, because if I don't, I will lose my mind. And I think that was a big moment for me, where I was like, okay, well, maybe factories are not for me. They're great jobs. Again, not hating on that at all. But for me, it just wasn't for me. And then Isaac
So did you have a lot of doubts whenever, like, because you said that lyric resonated with you. So do you
Yeah,
think that it was ultimately you keeping yourself from pursuing your dreams?
I think so, man. And I think it was at the time I was just kind of scared. Like Dietz, the guy I was telling everybody about, was he asked me. He was like, he's like, hey, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. He was in Atlanta for a bit, but then he moved to California, and then he came back and he called me and he was like, hey, I'm moving to Atlanta, Georgia, and I want to make this house called the Thunderdome, and I want to fill it with filmmakers who kind of want to, get their feet wet in the business, and you're kind of like someone that I have like, you know, in mind for this, and for a while, it took me a good while to kind of, do it. Like I would be like, I don't really want to move to Atlanta and be a creative. I don't really know. It sounds kind of scary, and then I'd go do jobs I hate, and then at that point, I was like, you know what? I need to just do this. This is a great opportunity. I was terrified, but man, like I'm about to sneeze.
Bless you.
Yeah. Ugh, ugh, ugh. So anyway, but yeah, I just like I remember just having this moment where it was like I remember going across the street, like there is a like a barn that me and my friends used to do like front flips out of into big piles of hay and whatnot and pretend that we were Jeff Hardy or whatever. And I went over there to kind of think and to meditate and to pray and whatever. And I remember just having this really clear like moment of like, you need to go to Atlanta and you need to pursue filmmaking. And then it was such a clear thing for me. And then I
It's
was,
almost poetic, like a place of such like destruction and chaos became
it
like your moment of clarity.
It is, and I'll always love that barn loft, man. We always just it is called the loft, and it was funny. Like me and my brothers, that was like a very common place of hanging out. Like me and my friends, like we used to do swantons, which is like a front flip that you land on your back or whatever, and we would jump off this like barn loft to do flips, and it was just this thing that we did, and it was just like, oh yeah, can you go over to their house and do flip off the thing? That'd be cool, and so. Um, so that was like always like a great place to hang out and to film a lot of stuff. And so it was also in that same barn where I kind of just it really set with me that I need to be a creative. I need to be a filmmaker. I need to go make things. And so I remember having that prayer, that talk, that moment, and over the next couple of days talking to Isaac and being like, all right, I'm doing it. Let's go. Like I'm scared to death, like like I'm not prepared. But at some point, like you can only be so prepared. At some point, you just gotta go. You just gotta do it, and you gotta just take a jump. And a lot of the times, that's just kind of how I do things now. Where it's like, am I ready to handle this? Absolutely not. Am I going to? Yes. So, and a lot of times that's just has worked out for me. Just kind of figuring out
Do you
as
remember? Because the drive from our hometown to Atlanta is about 2 hours. Do you remember what was going through your head on that ride there for the first time when you were moving in?
Yeah, I do. I remember like I remember waking up at my parents' house and thinking to myself, wow, this is the last time like I'm waking up in this house as someone that lives here. Now I'm for the first time I like moving outside my parents' house. And we've all like most of us have experienced what that's like, and it's a crazy transition. And I remember I took like I was following my parents. My parents had like a big trailer loaded full of stuff, and they moved me down to Atlanta, and I was following behind them, and it was me and Naaman. We were sitting in this car, and like I remember when I got there, and I remember me giving my parents a hug, and I kissed my parents, and then they shut the door, and I remember like when they shut the door and I heard the sound of the door close, I was just like, man, that's it. And welcome to adulthood. It's
Wow.
real life. And I remember Isaac being like, hey man, I'll let you have a few moments. Like, cause it's just like a big moment, anybody that down to the parents' house when they're, like I was 19, so I was still, pretty young. And, so it was just, yeah, man, it was just a really cool moment. I'm really glad that I took that chance. And that's always been kind of like part of my message to people. It's always like, hey, you literally have one life to live, so go take that chance. Go, take a dive at what you want to do, because you only get so many trips around the sun. You literally, like, when you put it in the ground, you're not getting another chance at life. So literally you have one opportunity to do what you want with this life. So it is your obligation to do so.
And do you remember exactly what your parents told you? Do you remember that conversation very well? Whenever you were like, "Hey, I want to move to Atlanta."
A little bit. I think they've always been really supportive. So my parents are very supportive of it. And yeah, I mean, they obviously don't want because on one hand, it's like, all right, well, Nathan, he's going to go move to another state in a big city with a guy that he knows from the internet. So that's kind of like whatever. So like, but once I went and once my parents like met Isaac and everything, stayed down there for a minute, they were pretty they were always cool with me and always very supportive. So
That reminds me a lot of my parents whenever I moved here to Atlanta, because uh, technically I kind of met you through the internet, and they were like, or when I told them, they were like, "You barely even know this guy, and you're gonna," and I was like, "Yeah, he believes in me, and I believe in him."
yeah, man.
And so thanks, mom and dad, for believing in us.
Dad. Yeah,
So
yeah,
you moved to Atlanta, and do you remember your very first night there?
I do. Like I remember just moving everything into my room and just kind of sitting there. I was like, whew, all right, well, here we are. This is not like a thing that I'm thinking about. This is like, we're in it now. So I got to make this work. And God bless Isaac, like for always just supporting me in all of it. And man, it was crazy because like Isaac was teaching me how to do a lot of things. And I ended up breaking or misplacing or whatever a lot of his different gear just because of inexperience. I was super green. So bless Isaac for putting up with me through all those years.
What did you break?
I don't know. It was like a bunch of small things. Like, I don't know. I don't even really remember. I just remember I broke stuff. It would, I don't even remember, if I'm being honest. But I do know I messed stuff up, or like, whether it be like XLR cables or like mics or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And who moved in with you?
Moved in with me.
Yeah, to the Thunderdome, or were you the very first one?
Very first one. So,
okay, I thought it was like a group thing for some reason.
Yeah, so it was like Isaac, my friend Neely, and my friend Kyle Detman. They were already there. They were already established filmmakers. I was protege of Isaac Dietz, the first follower of Dietzism, the disciple of Dietz, and so I was the first one to move in that regard, and that was cool. But later on, we had, I think the next person to move in was Frank Avamonte, and then after Frank Avamonte, we had Skylar Smith, and we had John Gabriel, and then we had oodles and oodles of more that kind of followed. And then I stayed at the Thunderdome learning about a bunch of stuff, and which is funny, like not only that, but Found Force 5, which was the band that got me into Isaac's work. They hired Isaac to do a music video, and I was just like, yeah, let's do a music video. And we ended up doing it in Cleveland, Tennessee, and we ended up like, which is cool. We shot it at Lee University, which is, we're from
and
that.
You guys broke the elevator in the music building.
Yeah, Isaac broke the elevator in the Wobble music video. But I was there for Wobble, and I remember driving there, and I remember passing somebody that was reading my old electric meter out. And I was just like, man, for some reason, that's awesome. Yeah. Enjoy the hot weather, nerd. No. I was just like, this is a weird moment where I was just like, man, that was really cool. And so it was a really awesome thing to experience. I was like, I'm into this now. This is the right decision.
Yeah. TOF721 wants to know, what is your favorite thing about filmmaking?
Well, I feel like just with art, like in general, or just any kind of creative thing, I think art, can put words to certain feelings or emotions that we can't fully express. Like when we listen to a song that means a lot to us, like it pulls out something and that creates kind of comfort. And for me, I like to create those experiences with people in various different forms, whether it's like like to make people laugh. I like to make people feel comfortable. I like people to feel, you know, inspired or very comfortable or uncomfortable if the occasion calls for it. I like just knowing that you can put something that's part of you that comes from inside of you, put it like in the form of a video or whatever, and then just getting a reaction out of people or moving people, or even doing videos when I, you know, because I work with DDP and everything. You work with DDP as well. So you make these videos that are inspiring to people, and then people are like, oh yeah, I saw that video and it inspired me, or I wanted to hurt myself, and then I saw this video that you guys did, and I decided not to do that, kind of thing. And so those kind of things are some of my favorite elements. And also on a different level of just like, luckily with filmmaking, it's taken me to a lot of different places, and I've got to experience really cool things. I've got to experience, you know, other countries, or I've gotten to go on tours, or I've gotten to be involved with pro wrestling, or like all these things that I've loved ever since being little. Filmmaking has created these opportunities for me, while I still get to, you know, pay my bills with that, which I feel like the luckiest man in the world for that.
Absolutely. Brandon, I see your question. How was working with Corey Taylor? Definitely want to get into that. I think that will be a little bit further down Nathan's timeline, but I love that answer, Nathan. But let's keep going with your timeline, because that's really what I wanted to get into with this interview. So, do you remember your very first gig that you got when you moved to Atlanta?
This is a really interesting story. So, her name was Sandy Kramer, and she was a teacher, and so she did a speaking gig. I think she was speaking to a bunch of like younger women and everything, and I went to go document it. So I was like filming it, and then her sons like were with her, and then one of her sons, I was just like, man, this guy looks super familiar, and I was like, I don't know, I've seen you before, I can't put my finger on it. I was just like, whatever, maybe he just looks like that. And then I remember like that guy being like, hey, this has been bugging me the whole time, but you look like someone I know. And half the time people say, oh, do you know you look like Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? But he didn't actually tell me that this time. And I was like, yeah, you look familiar. I was like, where are you guys from? And, you know, they're like, oh, we're from Cleveland, Tennessee. And I'm like, oh, I'm from that area. You know, I'm from Polk County, but I spent a lot of time in Cleveland. And I remember like when like they essentially said, or then this moment clicked. I was like, oh wait, you were the people that hired me to work at the factory that I decided.
Oh man!
So they were my last client, and they were also my first client on the other side. So I went through a temp agency, and so I guess that family, or at least that guy, was involved in that temp agency. So he hired me for my last factory job, and so when I quit,
wow,
I picked up this random gig that Isaac gave me, and it ended up being like that guy's mom, and he was there, and it was just such a weird thing. So
that's insane.
Yeah.
And how long did you work, or how long did you live in Atlanta before you got the gig with DDP Yoga?
So I moved into the Thunderdome. You can see my tattoo here. And it's important enough to me to get this. This is not a Gatorade logo, as a lot of people think. It is a thunderbolt or a lightning bolt. I can tell the difference, but that's beside the point. So I got a tattoo representing the Thunderdome. I moved in November 1st of 2011. So that's 1-1-1-1-1. A lot of ones. That was the day I moved to Atlanta. And I lived at the Thunderdome until about, I think it was February 1st of 2014. That's when I moved out. And I just felt like it was, I felt like I learned enough, and I got that job at DDP Yoga in the summer of 2013. So about early 2014, I'm like, you know what? I have this full gig going, and this is kind of something I see myself doing long term. So I realized, all right, I need to make room for the next, people to come through the Thunderdome. And I thought about it, and then I decided to kind of move out from there.
Wow. And so how did you get the job with DDP Yoga?
It was, it's funny. Like, if anybody knows me, they know that I'm a really big pro wrestling fan. I've been a pro wrestling fan my whole life, I've been obsessed with it, collected action figures, the DVDs, anything. Like people would be like, "Okay, we get it, Nathan. Please shut the hell up about wrestling. We get it." Yeah, it's just always been something I've loved, and so that's kind of part of me as a person, and it's inseparable. And I remember Neely, who lived at the house, called me up one day, and she was just like, "Hey, hey Nathan, do you still edit?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I still edit." And she was like, "Well, do you still like pro wrestling?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I love pro wrestling." And he's like, "Okay, well, Diamond Dallas Page is trying to find some more editors if you're interested." And I was like, what? I thought it was a joke, you know? And it was just like, this is sick. I want to meet Diamond Dallas Page. Are you kidding? I had a foster sister named Dallas Page after this guy. So it was such a crazy full circle thing. So like I went, and then Dallas ended up being the coolest dude ever. Did I tell you the story about when I first met Dallas, by the way?
I think so, but for the purpose of the stream, please tell it because it is a funny story.
Stream. Let's talk about this. So there's a movie called The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but you need to go check it out. It's one of the main reasons I got hired by Diamond Dallas Page is to work on this documentary about another wrestling icon named Jake the Snake Roberts. And it's no secret that he has struggled with a lot in his past with a lot of addiction issues, and invited him into his house and was like, all right, I'm going to bring in him as an addict, and I'm going to help him because I love this guy get clean. And this was my first experience dealing with people with addiction and dealing with the kind of things that come along with that. And it was crazy. So the day that I started working, Jake had unfortunately relapsed while Dallas was on vacation. So when Dallas got back, Dallas was so pissed. So if you see the part of the movie where Dallas gets back from Costa Rica, no, timeline-wise, that's about when I started. And so I remember Steve, my boss, he was filming like Dallas and Jake talking it out, but they were really just yelling at each other. And Steve was like, "Hey, bring up a new battery in Dallas's room." And I was like I was just walking with the battery, and I was like knocking on the door, and then he like opens it, and then I just hear Dallas just like screaming at Jake. And I was just terrified. I was like, "Oh my God!" And I remember like going and like I was like terrified. I was like, "Oh man," because all I knew about DDP was from what I saw on television, and he was just like this big, intimidating guy. And I remember editing like at Dallas's house, being like, "Man, this guy's scary," and him walking up, putting his hand on my shoulder, and be like, "Hey kid, what you working on?" And I was like, "Oh!" But then he ended up being one of the nicest, sweetest human beings I've ever met in my life. And honestly, I have learned more from Diamond Dallas Page than I'd say anybody in my life outside of my parents. Like I feel like I've learned more about life from him. Amazing human being. I can't put over enough. Can't say enough nice things about him. Yeah, he just means a lot to me.
Well, your story meeting him is way cooler than mine. Mine is literally I went to work one day and Tasha was like, "Hey, let's go meet Dallas." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I go around the corner. I see this giant in front of me. He has his back turned, looking at a door, talking to somebody on the other side of the office. And Tosh was like, "Hey, Dallas, we want you to meet Trevor. He's our new editor." Dallas turns around with the most unimpressed looking face ever and just goes, "Oh, what's up, man?" And just like shakes my hand. And I'm like, "I've heard a lot about you." And he was really nice. I think maybe he was probably just tired that day. But that story is way cooler.
It was really funny. Like,
Yeah.
man, I love him. He's just such a good dude. And I feel like I'm extra just about Dallas right now because I'm editing Relentless. So I'm just like, man, what a guy. What a dude. And then, so yeah.
I mean, that's a good segue. We can talk about the documentary. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I'm doing a documentary called Relentless, and it's about Dallas's Page's life post wrestling, and talking about DDP Yoga, which is a company that me and Trevor both work for, and it's a really cool, fun company. It's production, but it's health and fitness. It's also pro wrestling. It's like all sorts of different things, and it's really fun. So Relentless is kind of about that story about how somebody that was, a main event like wrestling legend, and how he transitioned from that into being this guy that does DDP yoga. which is like wrestlers doing a yoga based thing is like ridiculous, you know? So he talks about kind of like how he basically invested all of his savings from wrestling into this. So if it didn't work, then literally all the money he made from wrestling would have not meant anything. And he literally bet on himself. And it's a crazy story. And so I'm really thankful and blessed I get to be the person that gets to
How
tell
much
it.
money did he put into it?
I don't even remember the exact dollar amount, but it's like I know it got to the point like it says like in the documentary, and I guess to a point where he like, and I don't want to give it like a lot away, but
Yeah,
the
of
kind of
course.
game point in the story. I think this is in the trailer. You guys can probably Google the trailer. But there's a part where he said, he's like, well, we have like a year to make DDP yoga work, or it's just not going to. I have like $100,000 left from wrestling. I'm going to put all of this in here. So I'm literally going all in, no pun intended, on making this work. And so he short sold his house, moved to Atlanta, and he's like, just bet on himself. He literally put it all on the line, hoping that it would work out. And it
That's
did. So
incredible.
yeah, it's like the balls that Dallas has when he like truly believes in himself, and he's also someone that can help other people believe in themselves too. And like I feel like I'm the same way because before I worked at DDP, I didn't really have a lot of like self confidence, but now I feel like now that I've been there, I feel like I have a lot more self confidence to do what it is that I need to do in life. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What do you think is the key to confidence? Like, do you remember an exact point in your life whenever you you were like, yeah, I can do this. I'm a very capable human. There's no reason I shouldn't be confident.
Man, I really think like this was like a thing that Dallas says a lot. He says it's the story you tell yourself, and I do think that goes a long way. And I think a lot of us we can get very much into our own heads where we're sitting there like, man, no one loves me, no one cares. Like if I died, who would care? Like we just beat ourselves up and we think like our problems are not important. We think that we're not important. But once you start realizing that you are that you have worth and that all these things are just nonsense in your brain and you put these aside and like it is the story that you tell yourself. So once for me, I was just always really cynical and negative, and I was like, who cares, no one this or whatever. And now it's like, you know what, it doesn't matter if people like this or don't like it. I want to make it because I like it, and I'm going to just do that. And now then you start valuing other people's opinions about what you create less. And I think for me it was once I started changing the story I told myself, I ended up being a lot happier of a person, But like, no, I do deserve good things, and I do deserve to be treated with respect, and like I do get to make this art, and I absolutely love this, and no one's going to tell me what I can't do as far as creating. And so once you start believing that you are worthy of respect and you just start respecting yourself and you start telling yourself that you respect yourself, everything kind of naturally kind of follows from there. So I think the
Mm.
best place is to start in your own brain and your own thought life, because sometimes people will be like, it kind of feels like I'm lying to myself because I really don't feel this way about myself. Well, keep lying, because your anxiety that you have or the negative things that you keep in your brain is all lying. So if you're lying to yourself one way or the other, you might as well go with positivity, because that positivity is going to take you a lot further than dragging yourself down, which absolutely gets you nowhere. You know?
That's a good answer. And so what exactly is the story that you tell yourself?
I believe in positive self affirmations, as goofy as it may seem. But like, when you wake up in the morning and I'm driving to work, I'm like, today will be a good day because it says it's going to be a good day. Like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have a lot of laughs. I'm going to create something to the best of my ability. It's going to be awesome. And so you talk to yourself. You keep saying these kind of things. I'm going to blow people out of the water. This is going to be good. This is going to be a well edited video, or I'm going to direct this. And then you just stop thinking about all the hangups. And for me, I feel like there's a counterintuitive approach if you just stop caring about what people think, or if you just start caring about the mistakes or the fear. And once you realize that fear is necessary in order to gain anything that you're chasing after, failure is a necessary part of success. And once I realized that, I just started doing that. I remember like I went skating with Isaac, and I remember we were skating in a swimming pool, and I was scared. I was afraid to go up like the wall. And he's just like, hey, the best thing to do is you just got to fall off that board and just hit the pavement. And I realized that works in all aspects of life, because once you just overcome your fear and you take that step and you actually do fall, like you're able to like realize, hey, that's not so bad. And then you kind of lose that fear of it all. And yeah, so keep failing and fail your way to the success, and just keep getting back up and keep striving towards it, because eventually you learn how to maneuver your way through whatever it is you're trying to do, and confidence kind of comes with that. I think it, like, I forgot the quote, but Edison or whatever, Edison made the light bulb, right? So
Yes.
he, like, what was his quote? It was, I didn't fail 10,000 times in making a light bulb. I just found 10,000 ways of how not to make a light bulb. And I feel like it's just, you have a different perspective on yourself. And I feel like that will carry over a lot into your mentality if you can just tame your brain. Because if you can control your thought life, then you can do a lot. You'll surprise yourself.
Yeah. And I think another misconception of people like us, filmmakers and creatives, is that all we do, you see all the flashes, you see like, oh, this guy can hold a camera, this guy can edit a video and stuff like that. But really, I feel like being creative and being an artist is much deeper than that. It's learning. It's almost like being a mathematician. It's like figuring out this algorithm before anyone else can, and figuring things out on your own. And that's really what I think mostly being a creative is. It's much deeper than, being a philosopher, or trying or doing all these like big story things in your art. I hope I'm making sense right now and I'm not rambling.
Yeah.
But like, can you remember a time that you were so frustrated with something and that you were trying to make, and then you like tweaked maybe one or two things, and then it became this beautiful thing, and you were like, finally, like, this is something I created and it's right in front of me now?
Everything I've ever made. And there's a lot of different examples. I think for me, like, people get so caught up in doing what they think is cool rather than what they want to make or stuff that comes from them. I feel like there's a lot of people that are our age that are creatives and filmmakers that rather be Wes Anderson cover bands. They'd rather be their own unique thoughts or ideas, and I'm not saying that that's bad, but
Yeah.
we have to create like our own kind of thing. And I feel like that's another Dallas-ism, if you want to say. I've always related this because there's better than, there's less than, and different than. And I feel like if you always go different than, then your art's just going to stand out. And so it doesn't even matter if it's better or worse, if that makes any sense, or if that was the question. I kind of forgot what we were talking about.
Yeah, I think it definitely helped. Like, doing art is a lot of it spending years trying to find your own voice. Like, even Wes Anderson, I don't think he found, like, I guarantee early Wes Anderson films didn't even look like Wes Anderson films. Early Quentin Tarantino films probably didn't look anything like Quentin Tarantino. And hey, what's up, Louis? Louis in the house. Get hype. So Lou, we're talking about finding your own voice and being creative. And sometimes, like, doing that, I think, is a journey in itself. And honestly, as a filmmaker, I'm enjoying the journey. I don't think I have my particular style yet. Yeah, I like the vaporwave and the 80s stuff. And you love like fire and wrestling and just crazy stunts, and everybody knows you for that. Do you feel like you solidified your style, or do you think it'll even change in another 10 years?
Well, I feel like there's always just a never ending, I don't know, people just kind of change over time with anything. I'm sure that me 5 years from now is going to have obviously going to have a way different outlook on life than I do currently. But I feel, as far as like my style, I feel like that's what I tell you like all the time. It's about finding what makes you different and what makes you stand out from the norm. like people can make little videos of them, smoking cigarettes in parking garages. I mean, that's just like a common thing that people do as like a joke in our communities. But like for me, I like fire. I like pro wrestling. I love all sorts of just different weird stuff that kind of is just associated with me as a person and as me as a filmmaker. Kind of like how you do a lot of, the vaporwave stuff and 80s aesthetic and nostalgic kind of, feel. And I think that stuff is really cool too. So if you can just like, I don't know, like just really dive into that, but not just be exclusive to that, but really dive into that people can, just you can dominate like a niche that way. And for me, that's just what's worked best, I guess, for me is just doing a certain style of filmmaking. I very much do the guerrilla style as well. A lot of times just picking up a camera and just going and making it up as it goes along. A lot of people will write down every single shot like to the second that they have in a music video. A lot of times I'll have like a log line and then we'll just shoot and make it up as we go. Because I like approaching filmmaking the same way I did as a kid, where it's you, a camera, and very light gear and a couple of friends, and you guys are just hanging out, having fun. And a lot of times when you don't overthink it, that's when you get the best kind of stuff.
And I've been on a lot of film sets with you, and you hold that philosophy very true. Like you love the quickness and the rawness of guerrilla style filmmaking. So do you ever see yourself being on those big film sets where somebody's yelling about a schedule and there's like 10 different PAs, 3 of them are doing nothing? Do you ever see yourself being on those kind of film sets?
I don't know. It's one of those things where for me, I'm very content and happy with the way that I approach filmmaking. And maybe in some capacity, like I do a lot of music video stuff, but even then, even on bigger music videos, I still like to have a lot of fun. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just a big fan of freedom, and I'm kind of a hippie in a way. So it's just kind of fun just to play, but also work hard. So work hard, play hard, kind of environment of sorts. And that's just kind of the thing I want to create. Even if like I get on a set that's like really big, I still want to feel that same kind of way. It doesn't matter. If someone gave me $1 million to make, some kind of video, like I'm still going to have all my friends and I'm still going to have a great time, and it's still going to be a blast. There's not going to be any difference between Nathan Mowery when he was 15 years old filming at the sawmill and 28-year-old Nathan that has like to create something besides just a little bit of money and extra resources. For me, I just want to just continue to have fun. Filmmaking has always been fun for me, and it's always been a way to express how I feel about the world and my interests. And yeah, I love filmmaking. I love it until the day that I die.
And I think that's a good segue into your company, Kind Punk. So you consider I've heard you say this a couple times, you're like a punk rock filmmaker, and that's what your brand is. You bring punk rock to filmmaking and guerrilla style and just the rawness of making a film. So to my knowledge, filmmaking isn't a music genre. So how can you explain that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I get asked this a lot. So I have a company called Kind Punk, for those who don't know. I basically have just been Nathan Mowery up until about at the end of 2017. I was like, you know what, I should probably come up with a brand name. And I was really thinking of like a really good name because I wanted to really express who I am as a person and also kind of have that feed into what I do film-wise. And one day it just kind of hit me like Kind Punk. Like for me, I believe in kindness. I believe in helping other people. I believe in just being nicer than necessary, because we live in a world that's rather dark and cynical, and people like to be cutthroat, and people like to, just be, cruel. And there's a lot of production and a lot of different sets that I've been on where I'm like, man, this is just some corporate lame, like uncreative, uninspired, boring, like nonsense. Like there's nothing fun or creative or whatever about this. And I just hated it. I don't want to do talking heads. I don't want to do things that are boring or whatever. I wanted to create something that's really fun, And yeah, so I want to put emphasis on kindness, because also if the word kind is in the name of your company, then it also holds you accountable. Because I can't be a jerk and be running a company called Kind Punk. So it's almost accountability too, and a reminder of how important kindness is, especially in today's world and climate. And on the other side of things, I'm also a big believer in punk rock, and I grew up a huge fan of punk music and the ideals that punk represents, and that's questioning authority and also just, you know, pushing back against the status quo, and also just doing things in an individualistic way, and doing things your way, and not doing the things that not going the way that was paved by other people, just kind of doing your own thing, you know, like, and that's the kind of way I like doing it. I like like, I don't need to have like the nicest or craziest cameras and $1 billion and a lot of people. Like, we can just get, you know, a little group of people together, and we'll just go in a car and we'll just jump out and find cool locations and make stuff there, blow things up, just get weird. Like, that's, like, I love doing filmmaking my way. And a lot of people think that's the wrong way, but I don't think there is any rules at all to art. And if there is, I want to go against them anyway. So I do believe in healthy, everybody needs a healthy sense of rebellion, and everyone just needs to have fun and be creative. So kindness and punk rock are two things that I hold close to me in my life, and they're two parts of who I am that I always want to hold true to. So and also believe that kindness is in of itself a form of rebellion, because people tend to just be cruel. And we have enough tough guys, enough mean people in the world. We don't need any more. We need people to help and lift other people up. And I think that's what's more important, you know? So,
Mhm. And
yeah.
whenever you think of punk rock, or I feel like anyone does, I feel like there's two sides to it. So one side is the one that probably comes to your mind first. You think of like, you know, Billy Joe Armstrong, like rocking out, like some dude with a mohawk, a leather jacket. There's like spikes and belts, and then maybe he's like spray painting. Maybe he's playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Um, and then you got the other side, and it's the authoritative figure like wagging his finger, like, why are you doing this? How dare you? You're disrespectful. So I guess my question is, how do you respectfully decline authority, or um, you know, reject it respectfully and do it in a way that, you know, is also kind and also out of like the goodness of your heart? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like a hard one to explain, but it's kind of like, you know, you're not obligated to do anything ever. Like, if someone tells you, hey, this is the way you're supposed to do things, you don't have to do anything that person tells you ever. Like, they're like, them trying to bully you into a style is not changing literally anything. So there's a way of just not doing it. Like, it's like, there's a lot of times it's people trying to push their thoughts or their agendas or their whatever on you. And if you just don't do it, like, I feel like that's probably one of the most respectful ways of doing it, because it's just like, hey, like, I don't owe you anything. Like, I am not going to do things the way that you want me to do them. I'm going to do it this way. This is the way that I like to do it. And then you just do it. Like, there's a lot of times you don't have to ask permit. You don't need anyone's permission to do art the way that you want to do it. Like, so when people tell you, hey, don't do it that way, you just don't, you just do it anyway. So that's kind of my way. Like, when people tell me not to do something a certain way, but I know it's the way that I want to or need to, or it's just the most accurate way of expressing myself in the most authentic manner, then I want to do it that way, because that's what I believe in. And same thing with kindness or whatever. Like, a lot of times the world will tell you, this is the way you do it. And you don't have to do it that way. You can just do it whatever you want. And I want to stick to that way. And it doesn't matter if it bums people out. Because if people are upset with me or other people for the way that I do things, that says more about them and their character than it does about mine. And I believe in kindness and being respectful. But at the same time, it's like, I'm going to do things the way that I need to do things and want to do things. And there's not a force on earth that's going to tell me that I can or can't.
That's awesome. So I've been on a huge Nirvana kick lately, and one of my favorite like stories about rebellion in like the coolest way possible is I think we talked about this the other day, but the video. Have you seen the video of Nirvana where they were on this TV show in Britain, and they told Kurt and the band, they were like, "Hey, you guys are going to perform 'Smells Like Teen Spirit,' but you guys are going to have a track, and Kurt, you're going to sing over it. So just pretend like you're playing." And Kurt was like,
Like,
"Are you kidding me?" Like, he was like, are you kidding me? Like, no, we play our instruments. Like, and then they pretty much told him like, well, you either do that or you don't play at all.
Yeah.
So Kurt and the band, they were like, you know what, let's just screw this. Like, let's just play the way we want to play. So they get up there, and Kurt, I'm not a guitarist, but the opening of Smells Like Teen Spirit, your hand would be like, doom, 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 doom. Kurt's just going.
And
And Dave Grohl in the back on the drums, just it's not even like touching. My favorite part though is before the chorus, whenever the snare drum's like, instead of hitting the snare drum, Dave hits the cymbals. He just like plays everything backwards. It's so beautiful. Like, I feel like that's the best way. Like, I'm sure a lot of old people are like, how dare they? They are disrespecting, I mean, they were paying them. Come on. But no, like, Kurt and Dave and Chris, they had morals and the way they wanted to play art and live life. And these people were going against that. So I feel like that was the best way to rebel.
yeah, I think just because you want, if you want to be nice, doesn't mean like you can just let people tell you what to do or boss you around, because that's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one's going to tell me like what to do, like in that regard. So yeah, just create. There's no rules to create. There's no rules to creativity. There's no rules of marketing. If you want to create something for your brand and you want to just do it. Just, who cares? You don't need to ask anybody's permission. Just go do it.
Yeah, totally. So I feel like we deteriorated, or we reared off on your timeline also, but we haven't even gotten to the coolest part. So you're working at DDP for a couple of years, and then this guy, no one's ever probably heard of him, Chris Jericho. I think he's like an up and coming wrestler. Came up and needed a music video. And how did you respond to that? Tell me about that story.
So Chris Jericho, he is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. An argument could be made that he is the greatest wrestler of all time, one of the greatest entertainers. And over the past, like, since, man, he's been in the mainstream main event scene for several decades. Like, he is like an accomplished guy. Like I said, could make an argument very easily that he's better. I think he's better than, like a lot of different people. He's up there with The Rock, Stone Cold, and whoever else. But so there was a time where Jericho, who's friends with Dallas, came to DDP Yoga, and they were in the studio room, and they were having like a photo shoot. And then Jericho was looking at the room, and he was like, man, this would be a really cool place to do a music video. And Steve, the president of DDP Yoga, was like, oh, well, Nathan, he does music videos. And then Jericho was like, oh, okay, well, let me get your contact. And then everyone was looking at me like, oh, Jericho wants your contact.
Oh my God.
I felt like a really attractive girl, like wanted my number. And I was like, but it was cool. So and we talked about like a music video, it's like ideas and everything. And I kind of pitched to him like my own kind of thoughts I wanted. And we ended up doing a music video for Judas. And then it was like a one take music video where everything was sped up. I was on fire for it. It was just a lot going on. And yeah, we shot it, and I was able to finish the edit before anybody even left the set. And so I remember talking to Jericho. He's like, man, great stuff today. Whenever you get a chance, send that on over to me. And I was like, oh, I've already emailed it to you. And he's like, oh. And then he went to a restaurant or bar or whatever later, and he watched it. And he's like, this is the best video we've ever had. Oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I don't even need to.
That was a good feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was just like, I don't even need. It's funny, as corny as it sounds. I have that email saved on my phone because it was just like, this is the video we've had. Like, it's out, like, amazing. I don't even need to see any other takes. This is the one. Like, he was just so stoked.
By the way, you think that's corny? Do you know how many people would probably frame that email in their house?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know, but it was just maybe frame it, like, because that was one of the best texts, or not texts, but emails I've ever gotten. So, yeah, that just made me incredibly happy. And then they dropped the video, and then the video got a lot of views. Like, it's like ridiculous. Like, I remember like they dropped it. I was like, cool. And Fozzy, like, up until that point, they had one video. I want to say, I could be wrong. I think it was Sandpaper that had 1 million, close to 1 million. Maybe they didn't even have 1 million on Sandpaper. But when Judas dropped, like, it took off, and I think it's probably at 35 million now or something like.
Wow.
Yeah, it's as a lot.
Do
So
you know? Do you remember how many it got in a day? The first day it was posted.
I remember it like got. I don't really remember the exact numbers, so I don't want to say the wrong thing. But I know that we got to a million at least very, very fast, and they were like, "Oh, this is already most viewed video. It's been up for like a day or two," and
Wow.
it was just really cool. It was a really awesome thing. And then from there, Jericho was like, "Well, Nathan's my guy." So then I went on and I did 3 more Fozzy videos from there, and now I got roped into All Elite Wrestling, and then Jericho is signed to All Elite Wrestling, so now he loves to have me do his stuff, and that's just the coolest thing ever for just some wrestling fan, homeschool kid from Polk County, Tennessee, to become, to work with Chris Jericho and to be someone that he likes to work with, and he actually enjoys and respects my work, which is
That really is an incredible story. Like, not a lot of people can say that the thing that they loved growing up as a kid is now their job. So,
and like,
what do you think, like, 14-year-old Nathan would say to, like, you right now? Do you think he would even believe you?
dude, it's just like, man, with 14-year-old Nathan, all he did was make videos with his friends and watch pro wrestling. And 28-year-old Nathan, all he does is watch wrestling and make videos with his friends. So the only difference in life is for whatever reason, someone gives me a paycheck for it. So I feel like I'm getting away with murder. It's just like an unbelievable blessing, and I can't believe I'm in the spot that I'm in. And man, it's just it's just a blessing, dude. Like I love wrestling, I love filmmaking, and the fact that I get to do both is just incredible.
That's awesome. So, yeah, let's talk about AEW. Like, you're working at DDP Yoga, and then this weird thing that's getting started is called AEW, All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah.
And do you remember, or what was that first day like whenever either Dallas or our boss Steve like came up to you and was like, "Hey, you're gonna go film this.
Well,
It's called All Elite Wrestling."
yeah, so Cody Rhodes, who is like one of the EVPs of AEW, it's kind of like his brainchild to some degree, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like Dallas is like his mentor, almost like kind of like an older brother, almost like an uncle, kind of like feeling that he had, and so Dallas was like, "Okay, you're starting this thing called All Elite Wrestling. You can watch 8 p.m. on TNT every Wednesday night." And Dallas basically loaned me and all the other people, Dylan and Steve, and like the whole company, the whole DDP Yoga production team, to do videos for AEW. And then once we started, like Cody was like, "Man, these guys are great. These guys are creating some good stuff." We created like this thing called Road 2, and you can type in AEW Road 2, and you'll see a lot of kind of content that we create there. It's all these stories about all these pro wrestlers that are involved in AEW, and Dylan Freimeyer really brings that to life. He's just an amazing editor, and same with Steve. He's he's probably the smartest human being I've ever met, honestly. He's a genius, and also, I don't know if Louie's still watching, but I really love Louie. I just wanted to throw it out there. He is just a great guy.
I wanted to give a quick shout out to Louis. He is hosting me right now on his channel, and I really appreciate that, man.
Man, Louis is huge.
What a guy.
Twitch. We probably have 90 billion people watching currently.
We have exactly 8, but I am still very thankful for you, Louis.
That is 8 more than I thought, or 7 more.
We had 10 or 11 at one point.
Whoa, double digits. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. But so that's kind of cool that did you ever want to shoot for WWE, or do you think All Elite Wrestling is like where you'd want to be?
Yeah, man, I don't want to work for WWE. WWE seems to be everything that I am not about. And AEW takes that punk rock, fun, DIY spirit, and everything that I love, because it's basically they took all of the best independents and they formed a company with a lot of other big main event names like your Chris Jerichos and whatnot. And that's like, there's not a wrestling company on the planet that I'd rather work for more than AEW. It's just everything that I love about pro wrestling in one. I think it blows WWE out of the water, personally. I know I'm a little biased, but I am a lifelong wrestling fan, so bias removed, I would still think that even if I wasn't involved in AEW. It's just, I feel like people who watched wrestling in the late 90s, early 2000s, the lapsed wrestling fans, they're like getting it back into it. A lot of my friends, I remember growing up with like, yeah, I liked it when I was a kid or whatever, but now it's just kind of lame. Now people are saying like, dude, I'm starting to watch AEW, and this was the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, see, this is what wrestling could be if wrestling was done right. So again, to those 8 people that are still watching for whatever reason, go watch AEW on Wednesdays, and maybe you'll see me in the corner with a camera.
We've seen you and Robert a couple times.
Yeah, Robert gets a lot of airtime for whatever reason.
He was in the ring at one point, I think, in one shot.
That blew my mind. They didn't even tell me that Robert was going to be in the ring. And I was just like, what is Robert doing up there?
That's my roommate.
We made a video, like, it's cool. And full circle, like, Robert ended up getting a job here at DDPO, getting AEW. And
yeah.
And now the team is basically on the road team. The ones that go out, it's me and Robert primarily. And so it's like, man, here we are. Like when we were like 5 years old, we were making videos with our mom's cameras, and now, you know, we're adults, and now we're traveling across the United States to film wrestling on a weekly basis, and that is amazing. So the moral of the story is take that chance, because you can and will accomplish your dreams if you put the work in, and you just don't let what other people think mess with your brain too much.
Absolutely. And so what do you think, because there's still a lot of people that just think wrestling is lame or it's for kids, but here you are, a 28-year-old man, like still very much enthusiastic about wrestling. So what do you think, what makes wrestling like just cool in general to you?
It's its very unique art form, because it is a mix of entertainment and it's also reality. It's more real than Game of Thrones, but it's more entertaining than MMA, because it's somewhere in between. And I think the art lies in the blurriness of that line. And I think that you mix stunt, mix theater, and you have all these characters and these different storylines, but then you do all this crazy impressive athleticism, and it's this never-ending show that never ends, it never has an off season. And it's just, I don't know, there's so many different reasons why I've been captivated by it. And it's something that I have, from the second that I first watched it as a kid to now, my passion for it has just never died. I love it. And for a lot of people, they're just not going to get it, like a lot of different things, but it is a very unique art form. If people give it a chance to learn what it is, like, people will probably have a better appreciation. There's a video called Wrestling Isn't Wrestling. I think I showed it to you.
You did. It's a great video. I highly recommend it.
It's, if you want to understand, like, that almost puts it in a really good perspective. Like, if you want to just kind of get a good idea, maybe I'll do a video about why wrestling is cool, because I think it is cool. I think it's like one of the coolest things, and people need to people should just give it a shot on Wednesday nights.
Louis, you met Max Landis? That's cool.
Was that?
Louis met the guy that made the video, Max Landis.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I like what he said towards the very end. Like, so for those of you who haven't watched yet, that's cool. You're also friends with one of the producers. But so the main wrestler that he focuses on is Triple H. And I didn't really know much about Triple H or really much about wrestling even until I met like Nathan Mowery. But I watched this video and I grew an even bigger appreciation for wrestling, even though it's still not my favorite thing in the world, but I get it now. I get why people love it. And nobody really cares like how big Triple H's muscles are or how many flips he can do in the ring. He's just a great character. Like, he has this whole arc. Your mic cut out. What'd you say?
Oh, I said he can't do any flips in the ring.
But it was just insane. Like, I love whenever he was going through I remember in the video it says like this wrestler told him like, if I beat you, you can't wrestle anymore. And then he became like the vice president of the company or whatever. It's just a crazy story. You guys got to watch the video.
Just watch it, and then maybe you'll understand why I love this goofy thing called wrestling. I love it. Just give it a shot. You might surprise. Like, I've showed wrestling to people, and then once they kind of get that what wrestling is, like, then maybe you'll like it. I don't know. I just like it. I'm gonna like it whether or not you guys like it. So
Yeah. Also, I just realized that my dad is in the chat right now. He said, "Big thanks, Nathan, for helping Trevor, inspiring many others, and inspiring many others. I gotta go DPD, which is code for sleep."
nice. Well, enjoy your sleep. Trevor's dad, Tracy Hancock, the man.
My dad is awesome.
Yeah, I yeah, and that's a cool thing, man. Like, I love that you also have taken that chance of like, moving from your parents' house to moving down here, and I think it's
Thanks, man.
at first you're just kind of like, man, this is kind of like I don't know when it's going to pay off, but now I feel like it's as the months go by, it's kind of paying off for you more and more, and you've only gotten more creative and created more fun things, and I feel like really gotten starting to get become more of who you are as a creative and as a person. And it's a really cool thing to see.
Thank
So
you,
it's
man.
cool.
Like,
It's really I get to play it, even a small part in that.
No, dude, you've played one of the biggest parts. One of my new favorite things to say is Nathan has both given me the most opportunities to make money, and he's also taken the most amount of money away from me, more than anyone else ever met, because Nathan's my landlord.
I'm also Trevor's landlord, so Nathan gives the way.
So not only do you work in wrestling, and you've worked with wrestlers, you work for Diamond Dallas Page, you also have your own wrestling company called Southern Honor Wrestling. What can you tell me about that?
So Southern Honor Wrestling, it's basically Gary Lamb and Dylan Freimeyer and me. Like, we all run a company, and it's
Dylan works at DDP Yoga as well.
Works at DDP Yoga and AEW, and me and Dylan just work together a lot, just in general. He's a great guy. He's a real.
Do you ever get tired of him?
Yes, I've been tired. No, I love Dylan. He's the best. But basically, Rich Ward from Fozzy, which is Jericho's band, got me and Dylan in touch with Gary in Canton, Georgia, and we wanted to run a wrestling show, and because we were just looking at the scene in Georgia, and there's some really cool companies and wrestlers and stuff that kind of go on in Georgia, but we were like, with our connections and our our experience in the world of wrestling, we really think that we could offer the state of Georgia something different, something really cool. And we decided to do Southern Honor Wrestling. And we've been going since the end of 2018. And this past year, we were voted the best wrestling promotion in Georgia. And Dylan was voted the best wrestling booker of Georgia. And we had the best wrestling show of Georgia. So we really swept all the awards. I'm really proud of it.
A regular wrestler won the best female wrestler or something like that, right? Danny Jordan.
Oh yeah, and Danny was best female wrestler of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was 2 years in a row for her. And there was a lot of other best technician went to Joe Black. Like, we swept the awards, honestly. It was really cool. So just to be able to express ourselves creatively in that outlet is, but also still being in the world of wrestling. And it's cool because that's something I know that me and Dylan love. And even when we see like kids that come to the show, like for instance, Louis, the party planner, as his
Louis.
Louis, Louis, he has this guy named the party planner, and like, unfortunately, party planner's character got essentially broken up with, and it was a heartbreaking scenario. And it was funny. There was some like Grizz from work, like from DDP Yoga, he was messaging me saying like, man, my daughter and her friend, they are like crying at like Louis, like or party planners ultimate thing. So it's funny, like having just almost like give like kids or other people the same experience that I've loved and benefited from. And I know that Dylan feels the same way, and I really do. And I say this any chance that I get on every podcast that I get. I think Dylan Freimeyer is a genius when it comes to pro wrestling, and I think people will start to notice that as the years kind of progress. But Southern Honor Wrestling, if you have like independent wrestling TV, like you can get 5 days free using SHW as a promo code on independentwrestling.tv.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, look at me plugging stuff, but if you do that, you can go and watch.
Plug away.
Yeah, so Southern Honor Wrestling, go to southernhonorwrestling.com. Independent wrestling TV. Use promo code SHW, get 5 days free, and that's enough time to watch all of our shows. And you can see what all the hooting and hollering has been about. And you can follow
And we
me
know you're
at
not doing anything, so
yeah, we know you're not doing anything. Everything is closed. You're stuck inside. You're looking for things to do. I've already explained why pro wrestling is great. So this is your opportunity to kind of experiment itself, and you get to see the best wrestling in Georgia by watching Southern Honor. Type it into your Google machine. You know how the internet works.
absolutely. So where do you see Southern Honor 5 years from now? Do you think it'll like blow up even more, or do you think you'll outgrow the action building?
I don't know. I don't know if we want to outgrow the action building, but there's been a lot of talks, a lot of things we kind of keep on the DL about the future of Southern Honor. I'm really excited about it. I feel like we still have even bigger things to come. So we've done a lot in a very short amount of time, but I feel like we have a lot more in store. I feel like this is just the beginning. So we will see. And there's a lot of things we got to keep secret. So we will see as the future continues. But hopefully we can continue every year being the best wrestling company in Georgia and win that award every single year, and just getting better and better and becoming one of the best, companies in America, one of the best indies, period. So I think we have everything that we need to make that kind of happen.
Nice. Well, I think we're going to try to wrap this up, Nathan, but I think I'll ask you a couple more questions and then we'll call it quits. But so
I had to pee this entire time, so that's
oh, really?
Yeah. I am
Oh man, I told you to go.
suffering, Trevor. Yeah, well, I thought I did, so
It's all good. So is there anything else you want to say before, we close out, Nathan? Is there anything you want to tell the people, or just something you want to get off your chest?
I guess to the 8 people, if there's still 8, I don't know how many people are, but I think like this is something that I kind of just tell everybody, and I've mentioned it a billion times. It's kind of the whole crux of why I'm about, and it's again, we all have something that we want to do. We all have something that we dream about. We have a dream job. We want to be creatives. We want to paint or be Disney princesses, or we want to drive NASCARs or jump off of things, or just make movies or be actors or play in bands or whatever it is that you want to do. Like, it doesn't even have to be a creative thing. You want to be a doctor, you want to be a whatever. Like, you have the ability to do that. There is absolute assets available for you to take and to do and to make the most out of. I don't care what you are or what your background is. I do believe that if you put the work in and you just literally, no pun intended, be relentless at your goals, you can accomplish like a lot of different things. I think our dreams are a lot easier to accomplish than we really think that they are. And a lot of times it just starts off in your brain, and you have to get this right first. And once you get that right, everything else will slowly start falling into place. So we get so many laps on the sun, and then before we know it's over, a lot of us drop dead in our 20s, and we're not expecting it. We're all thinking we're going to be living until we're old. So make those moves now, because we only get one shot at this. So if you were waiting for a sign to go chase after the thing you need to chase, then I would say this is that sign for you. Go chase what it is that you want to chase. Live that dream. Live that goal, because you absolutely can. And it might not be easy, but it's definitely worth it. And you just got to keep doing. Keep at it. Keep on keeping on. So.
Heck yes. And Nathan, we'll end this by you plugging everything. Tell me where we can find Kind Puck, where we can find you.
Yes.
Southern Honor Wrestling, AEW. Where can we find all that?
Like, also want to mention that last thing I said. Like, it's not always easy, it's always worth it. That's a Christina Russell quote. And keep it on as a Joe Dirt quote. So I will go on to plug my stuff now. You can follow me at Nathan Mowery, which is right here. I think, I don't know if that shows up on your screen that way, but at Nathan Mowery on everything, at Kind Punk Film at everything. And and Southern Honor Wrestling, go to southernhonorwrestling.com, and watch AEW Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern time on TNT. And just follow me and see all the things me and my goofy friends are up to. And if you see me in real life, hand me a high five. Just give me a good old high five once this whole quarantine.
A crisp high five. That's what you always say.
A crispy high five. You me? I guarantee it will be crispy. If it's not, then we will do a do-over, as all white people do. So,
Absolutely. Nathan Mowery, everyone, thank you so much. If I had a sound effects thing, I'd play a big ol' audience applause. All right.
cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nathan.
Absolutely. I'm going to go use the bathroom.
Heck yeah,
Thank you.
do it.
Team Louie.
Team Louie.
Oh man, this is going to take forever.